Good evening and welcome to the Southbridge School Committee meeting on Tuesday, August 20th, 2013. Let us stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Agenda item number 2 is public input. Is there anyone here from the public who'd like to speak this evening? Anyone at all from the public who'd like to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item, number 3, meeting called to order. Can we have roll call, please?
Mrs. Congdon?
Present.
Dr. Domingo?
Excused.
Mrs. Donovan?
Present.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Present.
Dr. O'Leary? Present. Mrs. Quinney?
Present.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Present.
6 present, 1 excused.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 5, approval of the minutes. We have the regular school committee meeting. Actually, it would be first, we would do the reorganizational meeting on July 2nd, 2013. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mrs. Donovan. Do I have a second? A second by Mrs. McLaughlin. Do we have any corrections or errors? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote on that.
Roll call or show of hands?
Just want to do a show of hands, Max? All right, we'll just do a show of hands. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, we're all set. Minutes pass. The second set of minutes would be our regular school committee meeting minutes on July 2nd, 2013. And we'd like to accept those minutes with the change that we did not do Pledge of Allegiance, so that would be out of the minutes because we did not do that for the second meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A motion from Mrs. Donovan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Quinney. Any other changes, corrections on those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Abstain? Minutes passed. Thank you. Moving on, we have agenda item 6, Chairwoman's announcements. This evening, I don't have too many announcements. I would like for all of us to take a few moments to reflect. Today, we lost a very wonderful teacher in our district. Miss Judy Prisco passed away this morning. She fought a very hard fight against cancer for the last year, and from my understanding was still talking and conversing until a few days ago. So I'd just like for all of us to take just a few moments for her today. Thank you. And also, at this time, I know there was no one here for public input, but for the public who wish to come to public input, I just want to explain how that works. Public input is here for the community, any members of the community, teachers, whomever would like to come and compliment us or have complaints. We have public input, but we are not allowed to speak at public input. So we're here to listen to the people. I don't want people to get angry or upset because we're giving them, blank stares or anything like that. But our purpose here is to listen to all the public input and the people's comments and take all that into effect and discuss it as a committee and come back to you with answers or cures or however you wish to speak it. So I just wanted to make that announcement to share that with the public so that they understand what public input is all about. Moving on, we have agenda item number 7, reports. The representative, our student advisory committee from the high school won't be here this evening. I believe she will start coming in September at our next meeting. Moving on to presentations. Tonight we have a presentation, our quarterly progress report, accelerated improvement plan. We have Miss Ava Mitchell is not here, but her assistant Laura, correct, is here this evening, as well as Dr. Nadine Bonda to go over that report for us tonight. Thank you, ladies.
Good evening. Is that working?
Yep, you can lift it up if you want. There you go.
How's that? Great. My name is Laura Rashane, and on behalf of the Center for District and School Accountability at the Department of Education, I just wanted to say thank you very much for your time this evening. Dr. Banda will be discussing the quarterly progress report that covers the period of March through May, and she will be giving a somewhat shorter, more high-level overview of the report this evening than in the past, and so we welcome any feedback that you might have about this slightly different format, and of course are happy to answer any questions that you have afterwards.
Good evening. It's nice to see all of you. As Laura said, the report is changed a little bit tonight in that it's not going to be quite as detailed as it has in the past. This is a different format that we're trying, and we'd like your input on it. So we'd like to know if you'd like to keep it this way or if you like the more detailed report that we've been doing in the past. I'd like to start off just a little bit by, since this is the start of a new school year, it's not my end report, it's my third report, but just as you begin a new school year, just to remind everyone that the Accelerated Improvement Plan, AIP as we call it, really should be the driver of everything that's done in the district. It's a plan that's been carefully put together by your superintendent and his leadership team, and it's a plan that he believes will drive the system to more advancement in student progress. So we believe in that plan. The idea of it is a few goals, 3 goals in this case, where everything that's done in the district is focused on those 3 goals. So this is the report on the third quarter of the second year of your Accelerated Improvement Plan. And in this quarter, much of what was done was planning for next year. I'm sure you're aware of the new administrative structure in the district, and that's something that I hope will be evaluated during the next quarter so that you can determine if it's the best administrative structure for your district. Strategic objective number 1 was to implement high-quality curriculum and instruction programs to support the achievement of all students. There was much progress made in this area. There were curriculum maps done in ELA and in math, and those were driven by ANET results. As you know, ANET is Achievement Network, and they're the people who do the quarterly benchmark testing in the district. And those results are looked at very carefully and determine a great deal of what is happening in the district. There's been a great deal of work of principals. They get into classes, trying to get into classes every day. They are trying to give very high quality feedback to teachers, and then following up with those teachers, getting back into classes to ensure that those teachers are incorporating that feedback. That's really one of the only ways, the primary way, that student achievement is going to increase in the district is if you have the highest quality teachers and if those teachers are given good feedback and if that feedback is followed up on. The foci this quarter were on effective instruction area were on teachers having objectives, so teachers posting and talking about their objectives in every classroom. They were on sound instructional techniques and on what we call HOTS, or higher order thinking skills, and trying to get students to use higher order thinking skills. One of the measures was what's called the ANET temperature check. And ANET did this for the first time this year. They tried to develop a predictor of MCAS results. What we saw was Charlton met that ANET threshold in both math and ELA in the aggregate. In ELL, Charlton made it only in ELA. As far as students with disabilities, Charlton accomplished it only in math. And with low-income students, Charlton accomplished it in ELA and math. And that was really the only school that was able to meet those temperature checks. There's a need in the district to develop a robust tiered delivery of instruction. What that means is that in every classroom, you have students with a range of abilities, and a tiered method of instruction is ways to meet the ability levels of all of those students. That's going to take professional development for teachers, it's going to take coaching, and it's going to take monitoring for accountability in all classrooms. And there's also a need to use the educator evaluation tool. That was started to be used last year, but it'll be in full implementation this year. And it is not only a way to determine whether a teacher is a good teacher or not a good teacher, but it's a way to give teachers feedback and to help them grow. And that's really the power of that tool. And we should see that tool being used constantly and consistently throughout the district. I'd like to congratulate the school committee for your work with involving parents in the community this year. I know that you reached out and got many parents involved, so congratulations. This now needs to occur in every school, including the high school. So next year we're looking forward to hearing about the kinds of parent involvement that is occurring at every school. And that is not only volunteering, but it's parents being involved with their students and their students' education and understanding what their students' education looks like. The one thing that was disappointing in the first objective was that the suspension rate increased in the district last year, and I know that everyone was working hard to decrease that suspension rate, so hopefully we'll see some movement on that this year. The second strategic objective was to establish a data-driven culture to support and monitor the achievement of all students. This meant that teachers were developing reteach plans. So that means they taught, there were benchmark testing, there was benchmark testing that was done, and then the teachers used those results to reteach things that students didn't get. And that's a wonderful cycle to go through. But really the best solution is to have a robust, rigorous instruction to begin with so that you don't have to do as much reteaching. And I know that's what every principal in the district is working with his or her staff on. At the high school, the targets for the percentage of students completing all grade level courses was not met in ELA, math, or in science. Percentages rose this year, but not enough to meet the targets that the district set for itself. So I know that will be something the district looks at next year. Strategic objective number 3 was to provide high-quality professional development programs to support the achievement of all learners. This meant the goal of every principal in creating implementation plans for professional development for each month's faculty meeting. So at each month's faculty meeting, the principals worked to improve deficiencies that were identified through previous learning walks. So they go into classrooms, they observe classes, they see what the deficiencies are, and then they do that professional development at faculty meetings, and that was just what we were hoping would happen. So there has been ongoing professional development for teachers throughout the year, and that is important and essential if teaching is going to improve and consequently student achievement rise. So in summary, the accelerated improvement plan that the district has developed as its own roadmap must guide all of the work and all of the decisions in the district. There are a number of next steps that come out of this quarter's plan. The first is to ensure that all administrators receive intensive professional development and coaching that they need to understand their roles in improving student achievement. So that's for administrators, and the educator evaluation system will provide the mechanism for ensuring accountability along those lines. Secondly, the district needs to ensure that all teachers receive intensive professional development and coaching, that they need to understand their roles in improving student achievement. And again, the new educator evaluation tool should provide the mechanism for ensuring accountability. The district needs to put in place structures to meet the needs of English language learners, students with disabilities, and students from low-income families. These are the areas of high need in the district. The district needs to develop and implement a detailed plan for the improvement of classroom instruction that will be implemented and assessed in every classroom in Southbridge. The district needs to develop a robust system of tiered interventions for all schools in order to meet the needs of all students. And the through line from the district work to the school work to the classroom should be clearly delineated and communicated so that everyone in the district understands how this will occur. That means everyone in the district needs to know the 3 goals in the Accelerated Improvement Plan and all of their work, whether they're a teacher, a paraprofessional, a principal, an assistant principal, a director. All of their work should be geared toward the work of the Accelerated Improvement Plan. Does anyone have any questions?
Does anyone have any questions? Dr. O'Leary, did you have your hand up? No, ma'am. Okay. Anyone?
I guess
Mrs. Quinney?
Madam Chair, through you to the speaker, could you explain what the temperature check is?
Yes. So ANET, or Achievement Network, I could actually let the superintendent do that if he would like to.
No, I think Paul is probably the best person in the room to go through it specifically. Paul Livingston is the other state-appointed person that's working with us. I just want to mention while Dr. Bond is over there is that also part of our effort to move from level 4, the Department of Elementary Secondary Education has very generously supported us with a grant that will work with focus on results. I'll talk a little bit more about that, and that's an organizational program that will take each school, focus their plans, monitor what's happening, and then periodically do another temperature check on a monthly basis to ensure that we're doing what we say we're doing. So that's probably the most important thing that focus and results will be able to. It focuses us, we're not all over the place, and then comes back with it. ANET we've been working with for the last 2 years, and their data, and they're working with the school, giving us periodic tests and so on. And I think what I heard principals say, and they're all here, and they're going to talk a little bit later, is that reteach was the most important element of it because teachers looked at the data, saw what kids could and couldn't do, and they were coming back and teaching that to ensure that there was mastery all along, rather than assuming that that they got it. You don't know unless you have the data. I'll talk a little later about the ambitious plan that we've put together with the data gathering, the data dissemination, making teachers data literate, understanding exactly what happens in the classroom, teaching, monitoring, aligning, and then eventually part of it, student performance will grow up and achievement will be at a level 4.
Ms. Quiddy, I'm not avoiding your question. I just thought that somebody in the district might want to
He's
answer.
going to give you a specific answer, temperature check, because it's 90. What's the temperature in here, about 90 degrees?
It's about 100. Good evening, everyone. Paul Livingston, the plan manager for the district. Through you, Madam Chair, the temperature check is a measure that we developed last year with all of the level 4 districts in Massachusetts that are on an AIP, because a lot of the work geared towards the ANET reteach is very much based within the schools. And of course, the plan is a district-based plan. So we were saying, how can we try to measure our success along the way? And it was their first time doing this as a district measure. They had to make some generalizations, I guess, about what the state would be setting as their cutoff scores along the way. And I think it's been realized that it wasn't a perfect measure this year, but each year that they do it, it will hopefully become better. And what we pushed them to do was not just to give an overall all-student measure, but also to break it down into the subgroups that that Nadine is talking about in terms of ELL, students with disabilities, and low income. So we're looking at the comparisons between all of the level 4 districts right now and trying to unpack where that worked well and where it didn't so that we can make the temp check better in the coming year.
One of our concerns earlier when we were looking at comparisons was that ANET had just started in the state, and then many of the scores that they had were for charter schools, and they weren't reflective of the needs of urban districts. So now, through time, they've been able to gather more data with schools that are similarly situated to Southbridge. And because when they first came out, I said, how realistic are these goals and this data that you have? Because it was a primary charter school in Boston that's very different demographics than what we have over here. So now it's more like districts than before. And so it's more valuable to us as a school system.
And it's a comparative measure, so it's comparative with all of the districts in the ANET group, So it's basically a progress check or a progress report.
Through you, Madam Chair, I guess my question more is, it says Charlton Street met the target. What was the target? If other schools didn't meet the target, I understand it's collaborative amongst a bunch of different, what was the specific target?
So the targets, and those are all in your report, the targets that were stated, and the targets are set for a certain percentage of the students to score proficient or advanced on MCAS. So that's what all of this is aimed towards. And as you see in the chart, Charlton was the only school that met those targets. Now, it will be very interesting to see once MCAS scores come out, if that was reflective of MCAS scores. And as Paul just said, this was the first year that it was being done using the network of level 4 school districts. So we don't know what the accuracy of it is. ANET is a private provider. They don't work for the state, but many school districts have contracted with them. And in fact, most, not all, but most of the level 4 school districts have contracted with them.
I had another question. Other than student attendance and suspension data, what other indicators were used to determine parental involvement?
So that depends on what the district sets up as what their parameters are. So when they write their accelerated improvement plan, they decide what they are going to measure. And then they report to me and show me evidence of what they have done. So the areas that are in the report are all of the areas that the district said that they were going to look at. Now, I know that they're thinking, that they're looking at that for next year, and that they're developing a much more robust set of criteria, and I'm sure at some point Buzz will tell you about that.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions? Mrs. Donovan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Dr. Bonda. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Thank you. The first question I had might even just be a clarification. I think I was unaware that professional development actually takes place in individual buildings as a result of learning walks by the principal doing a learning walk and then responding back to a faculty meeting. I was unaware that that actually takes place, and I was happy to hear that. I was under the assumption that we had certain professional development days blocked out throughout the year for maybe certain groups or certain schools, but is that in fact what I heard you say, is that we're actually doing that?
Yes, this is the evolution of the staff meeting. You know, staff
Okay.
meetings a long time ago used to be a list of announcements, and everybody moaned and groaned going to staff meetings because you could have just put it on a piece of paper and distributed it. And most schools, and schools that are high-performing schools and school districts, have moved away from that completely. If they have announcements, they put them on a piece of paper and distribute them. And staff meetings are all geared around professional development and helping teachers grow and work together. It's collaborative work, so it gives teachers an opportunity to talk together and to plan together, which is very, very important.
I bet they probably need more time for that, too, having these faculty meetings. Thank you. The other question I had when you were talking about the education evaluation tool, you showed that it has not yet shown that how it will improve instruction. Is that because it's too early? I was wondering at what point will we know how effective the evaluation tool is in determining improved instruction?
So it won't be a measure of improved instruction, but what the new educator evaluation tool does is it mandates basically that principals are in classrooms every day and giving feedback to teachers every day. So teachers will get not every teacher will get written feedback every day, of course, but the district will set goals on how often they want principals in classrooms and how often they want teachers to receive written feedback. And then once those teachers receive written feedback, in this district, there's something called PD 360. Is that the name of it? PD 360? Oh, it was for the past year, where when teachers received feedback that they needed to work on something, this was a technology tool that they could go in and use. Very often, that is the work that then becomes the work of faculty meetings.
Okay, that's great to hear. Thank you. The other question I had when you were talking earlier, just with the temperature check and looking at other level 4 districts and trying to kind of group us all together and see what works and what doesn't, kind of things like that. Is there any type of collaborative sharing amongst districts or amongst superintendents who oversee level 4 districts to share information on how to better outreach to our high need groups, i.e. the low-income families, the ELL, the children with disabilities? You know, it seems like we're certain that this is a high need in our district.
Right.
I was looking for more. We've done a lot, and obviously it's still not enough. When the well runs dry, so to speak, how can we look for new ways, or who can we turn to for alternative ways to try to address these high-need students?
There are a number of mechanisms for that are built into this whole program, and that's one of the reasons that this program of working with level 4 districts, I think, is so robust. So every level 4 school district has a plan manager like Paul.
Okay.
And he's here about half-time, I think 2 to 2.5 days a week, supporting the work of the superintendent and the leadership team. He meets with all of the other plan managers often, and they communicate quite a bit. There's a person at the Department of Education who oversees all of that and ensures that they are always in touch with each other. One of the things that they often do is read each other's plans. And that gives everybody an idea of what's happening in every other district. And of course, they can always ask for the quarterly reports, exchange of quarterly reports as well. Then last year, I think twice, and this year we'll do it as well, we brought all of the plan managers, the plan monitors, and the superintendents, and 1 or 2 members of the leadership team together to share some of the best ideas that the districts have been using. And I think that was very, very valuable. So there are a number of mechanisms set up for that.
Okay, very good. And my last question, when do we see you again for the 4th quarter report?
So I think the 4th quarter report needs, I think my draft is in at about the 7th of September. So probably late September or early October.
And that'll
be here.
take us from the summer months, so to speak, June, July, and August. Will that be the period that you'll be covering?
That's right.
Okay.
That's
All
right.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for coming and reporting to us. It's a pleasure, always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, this evening, we have a presentation. Are we doing a presentation with Roland? Do you want to do the presentation with Roland? Building update?
Yeah.
Okay, so, excuse me, I just wanted to clarify.
Why don't we just use the superintendent's report?
Okay,
That'll be
we'll
all
move
part
on to the superintendent's reports.
Included in your packet is the Southern Worcester County Educational Collaborative 3rd quarter report, and it outlines the work that the Collaborative does for all of its members, including the Southbridge School District. So that's there for you. Moving on to update on the school opening for 2013-2014 school year. I have we have set a very ambitious schedule for this year. We worked very hard last year organizing the system into a district that's aligned to the outcomes that are necessary to be successful. The district, when I came here on January 2nd, it would be safe to say was in disarray. Okay? And finances, organizational structure, and all of those things were. And so it took a long time just to get to the bottom of the disarray, and we're still working through the financial aspect of it and the lack of policies and procedures in many areas. And I think the school committee has probably worked harder than any school committee I've worked with in putting together policies, putting together a student handbook. And I think it shows the dedication that the members have to improve the school system. That said, we spent Friday afternoon last week with a retreat for all of the school committee members, and the morning session was devoted to Mr. Glenn Kuchar, who's the executive director of the Mass Association of School Committees, and it was a good opportunity for the school committee, new school committee members, and an opportunity for existing school committee members to reinforce what the rules and regulations, the appropriate roles and responsibilities for all the school committee members, and Mr. Kuchar has been doing it for a long time, and he did an excellent job. And the afternoon session, the various administrators reported and had a conversation with the school committee as to where we were, what we did over the summer, what our plans are for the school committee and for the opening of school. So I'm really pleased to report that contrary to popular opinion, most people think that August is a quiet month for schools. And I have to keep telling them that this is the busiest month for school systems, not only here in Southbridge, but across the country. Schools will start on August 28th here. They will be clean. They will be organized. Teachers will be in front of them. Lunch will be served and cleaned up. And hopefully the parents will be smiling at the end of the day. And in order to do that, it takes an awful lot of preparation. I just think that parents sometimes and community thinks that it just happens by magic. It doesn't. It takes careful planning, and it takes a lot of teamwork from all the people that I'll bring up here in a few minutes. There'll be some new members that will be introduced to the school committee and to the public for the first time. And then the principals and the directors will be able to speak to each one of the schools. I think it's important that the community hears what from Eastford Road School up to the middle high school. Then they hear what special ed has done, what teaching and learning, and then the facilities department, and because I think that's one of the areas where parents are very concerned about transportation, and naturally so. And so we've instituted some new processes. Letters went out, and then if there are issues, the double check, and we have time to do it rather than doing this in the first day. So we're trying to get there. As far as the staff goes, we held a administrative retreat August 6 to 8, and we went to the scenic Torrey Road site and met the second floor library for 2 days. Was it 3? It seemed like a week. And part of my goal was to bring all the administrators, new administrators together and craft a common vision as to what Southbridge has to accomplish to move forward. Our goal is, as you heard, is to move out of level 4. You've been in level 4 for too many years. And how do you move out of level 4? Well, you have an organization, you have effective leaders, you have effective staff members, resources, both human and fiscal, are aligned to accomplish the goal. And the goal is simple, out of level 4. So to get out of level 4, student performance has to increase. And so everything we're doing, as you heard Dr. Banda and speak about, and Mr. Livingston, Dr. Livingston, I presume. It's a joke. It's a tough job. Without a little, okay. It's actually Livingstone, so we just have to get a little, so on. So the clear goals and so on. Not necessarily district goals, but what we want to accomplish as a team. And so one of the first things that has to be done is clear expectations about behavior, pre-K through 12. Not, I will create my own, and so on. Part of that was followed up by an excellent workshop that the Department of Pupil Personnel Services did with PBIS. And then we had a number of teachers and administrators spend the day with an excellent presenter. And this is the train-the-trainer model, so we'll go back and talk about, that'll continue all year. So that's not a one-shot deal, you know, we do that. Second thing I wanted to establish was this cohesiveness of the team, that it's not an us against them. We're in this together. Sometimes communities tend to split up into little groups, and work for their particular goals, which may not be to the benefit of the entire school community. We have that in some of our schools, and we're trying to eliminate that. And I got that term from when I was in Brockton. And we have a 4,300 student high school, which is ranked consistently as one of the best in the state and in the country. And one of the kids, when they were interviewed by outside groups, said, "What is it that makes this school work?" And he says, "Well, we all work together. Unlike other schools, it's not us against them. We're all together. It's not the teachers against the kids and this group and so on." So I think that's a real great little catch line. It's like us against them. I wrote down, we will eliminate any perception of chaos. And how do you eliminate any perception of chaos is by not having any and by being well organized. Nothing runs 100% smooth, but we hope to get to 98%, what the temperature of this room is. And then public relations. I had a parent come in today, didn't come to see me, but Katie was called down that she wanted to apply for homeschooling. And she had just moved here from California. So I hustled down to talk with her. And interestingly, she was Armenian, and I was able to use my Russian. We talked a little bit about this, and I said, did you decide on homeschooling because of what you've heard, or is this because something that's particular of interest to you and your family? And she said, it's because of my family. My son is a world-class chess master, and when they were in California, they were given a hard time about missing school to perform in tournaments. That's fine. So I said, can you run some chess classes for us? And she said she'd be happy to. So I think that's one thing we talk about, higher order thinking skills, and it's a little program. And in fact, I had one, I think the mailman talked to me a little bit about it and so on, and we need to follow through on that. So, but the point was that we're making an effort to outreach to parents, rather than just handing out a slip and so on. If you're going to homeschool your child, if you have personal reasons, religious reasons, or other reasons, that's your right. I'm not going to question that. But if it's something that you're concerned about, bad PR, or what you've heard, that clearly has to affect all of us. And so we have a number of steps. I'm not going to go over those and how we will improve the public relations. But the best way to improve public relations is by doing a good job. And then word of mouth gets out. So in light of that, continuing with orientation and so on, we'll have new teachers tomorrow, and then and teachers and staff members will report on Monday, August 26th. But on August 27th, I get to do my Buzz Dog and Pony Show. And the reason why I joke about that is this presentation, I want all staff members in the system to be there. And when I say all staff members, most of the time that means the teachers. But I learned a long time ago that the teachers are not the only ones that are evaluating their particular school, their particular class, their students, and their parents. And when you look at a town like this, where you have lots of school districts, most of the teachers that work and administrators live somewhere else. Who lives in the town? Custodians, cafeteria workers, maintenance people, your paras, your tutors. So I've asked all of them to be there so we get the same message out to everyone at one time, and also values them. I think that's important, that they're important to us. I don't want, and when they go out to the local food store, what's it called, Big Bunny? Mm-hmm. I found that. When I was down south, the Piggly Wiggly turned me on for a while. and they talk and say, well, she works at the school, so she knows what she's talking about. And if they say here that these plans they have are ridiculous and they're spending money on this, it's important that we all hear the same message. So I'm looking forward to on Tuesday for about an hour addressing all of the staff that we have here and making sure that our message at least once goes out clearly. It can be distorted later on, which it will be, I know this time, okay? But at least that went out accurately. So we're looking forward to that, and I think it's really important that the first day of school, we put our best foot forward and so on. So I don't want to talk for the whole time, so I'm going to invite the entire staff up here as a team to come up, and then I'm going to ask Pat, who is our new Director of Teaching and Learning. And then they will introduce the new members first, and then which is Pat. So we're pleased to have Pat Gardner, who is our Director of Teaching and Learning, and she comes to us well experienced. She was formerly the turnaround principal at Turner Falls High School in the part of the Gil-Montague system, which was also in trouble, and was able to work very successfully there. Prior to that, she was at Westfield State University, and many years' experience in the Springfield schools as a teacher, as an administrator, and so on. So very pleased to have Pat here, and if you listen to her accent, you think she comes from South Springfield.
Good evening. I'm very excited to work in Southbridge schools. I think it's a very exciting time to be here. I think what we're doing here that really pleased me greatly when I knew I had the job here is that the superintendent was willing to take a step back to move forward. So we're pulling in some of the programs and we're looking at them. We're looking at cost effectiveness, and we're looking at, for the money that we're spending, how is it raising student achievement? So I think with looking at focus on results, the ANET and milepost, I think we're going to see a lot of forward movement. And I'm just looking forward to working with these programs. I also think that the new instrument, I had a chance to work with the new evaluation tool last year. I like it, and I think that for me, we're going to look at teachers doing things right, and we're giving them the tools to do it. And your question about what we see on learning walks and coming back for professional development, we're building that toolkit for teachers. So when we go in and we see what they're doing in their classrooms, we can come back and talk with them with a unified vocabulary about what we expect in Southbridge schools and what we want for our students. So I look forward to working with all of you and working here this year. Thank you.
And you want to just introduce Sarah?
Yes, and we've been going around on what our names are. I think Sarah is now the supervisor of instruction, Dr. Sarah Jordan. Sarah, I'm from the South, and I say everything here wrong. I'm sorry.
Say hello, Sarah. Thank you.
Good evening. I have nothing to say. I'm glad to be here for another year, and I'm so excited at the changes. Thank you.
Colleen?
Good evening, Colleen Culligan, Pupil Personnel Services Director. Welcome to our new school committee members. It's nice to have you on board. All of you know that I started in November of last year, so I'm excited because this is my first full year to go through an entire school year, to have some summer planning, to do some professional development. As Superintendent Nemerko stated, we were able to get a really great PBIS workshop going. But more importantly, now I really believe that we can start the hard work of looking at our special education subgroups. In general, at all the schools, we really need to begin to focus on the structure of our delivery, our instruction, and begin to look at how we deliver instruction, in particular to our special education students. So we're looking at our co-teaching strategies, we're looking at how we work in the classroom together. And I'm excited because after starting with so many compliance concerns that I've come before this committee with, well aware of, they are not necessarily behind us, but I feel as if we can kind of start fresh with what I would like to call the meat and the hard work of getting into the classrooms and beginning to develop the vision of the special education department, which was basically what you hired me to do when I first got started. So I'm very excited. We have a new special education supervisor who will be beginning on August 26th, and so I hope to be able to bring her before the committee to introduce her as well. We're doing a lot of program evaluation. We're starting some new classrooms, some self-contained classrooms. Doing a lot of new hiring. We're looking at programs that already exist to try to evolve them. And just in general, being a part of a new and dynamic administrative team is very exciting to me. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I guess let's start with the principals and enrollment because they'll ask a lot of questions about transportation.
Good evening. It's been a very busy and exciting summer at Eastwood Road School. As Buzz said, summer is so busy, people just say, well, you just relaxed all summer. It is a very busy, continuous process all summer long. Our summer began with the following week after school got out on June 26th with summer school, starting on July 1st and ending on August 1st. So the children were very busy and engrossed in their summer learning. We followed that with our story time with Mrs. Shaw, with inviting our incoming kindergarten students to story time. I wish there were more that attended, but I had 47 students that came for the hour and a quarter of our story time sessions. I held 10 sessions from July 29th until August 5th. So that was very, very fun. It was a lot of fun, and the kids enjoyed their time. The teachers have been very busy at Eastwood Road. Many of them have started setting up their classrooms and they're prepared for the opening day. The teachers have been taking professional development. The Keys to Literacy was today. A few of our teachers were in attendance for that, and that's going to help build our comprehension and our vocabulary skills for the children throughout each grade level, to really get the differences between, for example, main ideas and the details of a story. So those are and help them think about thinking, metacognition, so that children really start thinking about those higher orders thinking skills that Dr. Bonda talked about earlier. Mrs. Cody has been doing an exceptional job with all the mailings and our letters to go out that we've prepared for the preschool orientation, our kindergarten orientation, to be coming up next week for kindergarten. And that's a busy, busy job, and to get all of our children in our classes for our coming year, to make it so successful for them and their parents and all of our teachers. We did that one. The leadership team, my leadership team, we attended together last week, was our focus on results. We will work one of the areas of comprehension that the other schools are going to be working on. Our team will bring this effort into our staff meeting on Monday to discuss how we as Eastwood Road School can enhance that comprehension skills in our building and find our focus this year on how we can increase our scores. The scores were very, very good at Eastwood Road School last year, and it was our hope and our goal to continue and increase those scores for this coming year as well with all our children. I think that's everything, and I thank you all for your time and consideration. Thank you.
Well, good evening. I was going to concentrate my talk mostly on, this is my 16th opening at Challenge Street School. Every year is a challenge and always looking for advice. And all I can say is I realized throughout my career it takes a team to make this happen successfully and smoothly. I want to thank the school committee for all their work with the district handbook and the individual schools. The superintendent, his district leadership team, my faculty and staff and parents, for rolling up their sleeves and assisting in making this a smooth transition for opening day. Particularly excited this year about our Achievement Network scores, and as we're striving to move the school forward, and with the additional focus on corrections, with a strong district leadership team, 2 new positions at the school, instructional resource specialists that West Street has, and we have at Challenge Street that will really drive instruction, and to look at all the reteaching that will be going on this year and the templates created by teachers to address student learning. We created our RTI, Response to Intervention model, where I have maximum staff servicing students in every classroom, in addition to the accelerated classroom, to look at the Achievement Network's interim scores, to adjust instruction, and to address the learning standards in the state. I could go on, but I just want to let parents know, don't worry, we're there for you. I have plenty of staff available for the opening of school. As far as first graders, we sent letters home again today, notifying the whole dismissal procedure to all parents in English and Spanish. If you have any questions, please call our school. My administrative assistant, Mrs. Morrow, is very versed into the process, as long as my guidance counselor, Ms. Driscoll. Just as far as the first day of school, we project we'll have 760 students arrive, grades 1 through 5. I'll have plenty of signs available, but first, second, and third grade students will arrive through the door adjacent. It's a single door that enters the gymnasium near the main entrance. And students will proceed into the cafeteria and will be seated in line. Their names have been identified to all my staff on sheets, and we have teacher names affixed to cones. We use all the manipulatives we can, in addition to signs on the upper playground for 4th and 5th graders with teacher names. Mr. Morrow sent home letters to every parent approximately August 12th, identifying the student's teacher and their bus that they'll be taking in the morning and where it will arrive. First graders, we will certainly address that, but as far as dismissal time, on the first day of school, all first graders will be dismissed through sign-outs if parents are picking them up or a relative, but they will have to have their license plate number, and we encourage you to call school as you receive the letters today prior to the opening of school so we can identify your child. We'll have colored tags, name tags for all first graders that they'll remain on their backpack, and their number will correspond also to the placard that will be displayed by parents who enter the school through that single door again, since first graders will be dismissed at 2:40 with all walkers, and at 2:45 all bus students will be dismissed. I only asked, it's imperative that parents don't arrive prior to 7:45 in the morning, since we don't have anyone on duty. I'll be there, but I can't watch everybody. So we'll have sufficient staff available to assist you throughout the opening and dismissal of school. And at this point, I could go on, but I just want to thank parents in advance for your assistance and cooperation in making this a positive and smooth opening. And 16 times they were smooth. Thank you.
Thank you.
And since you covered everything you need to say, you can just come up, right?
Ditto.
This is my second opening. Good evening. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to preview our opening for West Street School. After a very successful first year as a neighborhood school, West Street will continue to build on its successes in grades 1 through 5. The children and the staff all worked very hard, and I just wanted to note their dedication to the children of the district and all the hard work they've done. The improvements and accomplishments done this past year was evident all throughout the year by the students' work. They really struggled to succeed, and just looking around the building tonight at all the rooms and how they're prepared and the grounds, the buildings never look better, and you can tell that everybody's eager to get back for another year. So I just wanted to acknowledge folks. Some exciting news. In working with Focus on Results this summer, members of my leadership team and my staff created a new vision that's going to be the cornerstone for education, our instruction, and our PD this year, and it's as follows. I'll give you the adult version first. A coordinated school-wide effort to have all students of West Street School measure growth in reading comprehension through the implementation of guided reading, reciprocal teaching, and keys to literacy strategies. We will measure growth based on Dibble's composite scores, ANET, and MCAS testing. In a nutshell, our kid-friendly version, at West Street, we predict, ask, clarify, and summarize. And all students will get a sticker that looks just like that. At West Street School, we've managed to embed a common planning time. We also created a support classroom this year, created a meaningful school improvement plan, as well as implemented a tier system of academic and behavior interventions and support. Additionally, we're building on a very talented group of people at the school. We've hired a few new people to build upon that and improve technology with wireless capabilities and online plan books, as well as initiated interactions with the community in innovative ways like through Twitter, our recent partnership with Pizzeria Uno, which will help us to sponsor dough raisers, but also, more importantly, to help sponsor nights so students can do homework and meet with staff members outside of school if they choose so, but also go and work with their families. And also our new Paw Print newsletter, which will feature and include data that has been requested from adults in the community as far as how we're doing throughout the year on ANET and things like that, so we can make that available, show where our successes are and our urgencies to, with regard to our students. Finally, just to reiterate kind of what Bryant was mentioning, just a few things with enrollment. It's ongoing, but we encourage all families, and maybe some that don't know this, new to town, that they should enroll now to try and avoid problems on Wednesday. And my administrative assistant, Linda Lamica, is always there with a smile to help out with any questions as far as that's concerned. But we encourage sooner rather than later to come in so that we can work you through that process quickly. Arrival and dismissal procedures are as follows. They're very similar, but I'll just go over them quickly. All students will report to school after 7:45. They may all have breakfast. First and second graders will remain in the cafetorium, and third, fourth, and fifth graders will report to the gymnasium and upper fields. Now that's a change from last year. Third grade will now be joining fourth and fifth grade, and we've added support in the morning in order to supervise those children. Pickup will occur for the students to bring to their classrooms at approximately 8:30. At the conclusion of the day, first graders and their siblings will continue to exit up in the upper field near the gymnasium, and busing students will report to the cafeteria. We will stagger that release time so that they are not competing with the older kids in the building. Each first grader will have clearly marked a label on their backpacks, whether they're a walker or a bus rider, and that will be outlined, as Bryant mentioned, in an additional letter going home to grade 1 families. And as always, West Street School's door is always open. If anybody has any questions or would like, I've done a few tours over the past few days. I can walk some folks around the building. Grades 2 through 5 will be released at 2:45, and as always, walkers will exit on West Street School side, and the bus riders will go to the cafeteria. And once again, the tables will be marked with clearly with the buses that the children can take home. I just want to wish everybody in the community the best of luck with this new school year, and I'm excited to see the children and to work with the staff members, and thank you all for your hard work.
Good evening. I'm going to keep mine short and sweet because I could really go on for hours about all the new and exciting changes that we've made and all the things that have been going on this summer at the middle high school. But I'd like to start by introducing you to my new assistant principals. And I'll call them all three up together, and they can each maybe say something to you, a quick hello, and let you know where they're coming from. The first is Kate Potter. She is my assistant principal for grades 6 and 7.
Hi, I am very happy to be here. I just a quick rundown on me. I've worked in many inner city schools, Springfield, Hartford, Holyoke, and I've worked on tons of teams, and I am so excited to I can't wait to have the children come in, I really can't. But I have to tell you, working on many different teams that I have, we have just got a really good, strong assistant principal team here with the leadership of Amy. I gotta say, this is just, it's melding real well, and it's a privilege to be here tonight and to be here in Southbridge. Thank you.
And Anthony Cacase, who is our assistant principal for grades 10 through 12.
Hi, how's everybody doing? I worked 14 years over at the Collaborative, Southern Worcester County Educational Collaborative. I was a teacher there as well as a behavior specialist. I also did our summer vocational program. So I have lots of experience with behavioral kids and social emotional type of students. I look really forward to working here in Southbridge and excited about the big changes that we have going on here. Thank you.
And finally, Terry Wallace. He's our assistant principal for grades 8 and 9.
Good evening. Just a little bit of a background. I've been in the education forum for a number of years. I've worked in Worcester for 15 years and Leominster the last couple of years. And I'm very excited to be coming to Southbridge. I just think the opportunity here is wonderful. The upside is really good. The leadership that I've seen thus far has been outstanding. Buzz has a great vision. My assistant principals have worked really hard in the summer with Amy also, and I get a situation where I really think we can make some positive movement in this district. And again, as far as working in urban districts like this, like I said, I worked in Worcester for 15 years, so I'm very excited to be part of this Southbridge moves. Thank you.
So these three folks obviously didn't know each other, and they came together, and I haven't been able to spend a whole lot of time with them because I've spent the majority of the summer hiring new staff. We've got about 25 new staff members coming into the middle high school this year. Many are new positions that you all approved from last year. We've got some transfers that we did within the school district. Some of our staff were promoted to other positions, and we had to fill those slots. Some retirements, a few resignations. We've had a whole slew of movement. So one thing I can assure you is that I have been extremely thoughtful about my hiring process this year. I started almost the day that I came into the principalship, and every person that I have hired, and I can say that I hired my last person today, so we're fully staffed with certified, highly qualified teachers. Every person that I've hired, I've really gone through a process and interviewed many candidates and really looked for not just people that were qualified for the position based on their education or their experience, but people who I thought would fit what we're trying to do here. And I also looked for teachers that had dual certifications, maybe in their core area in ELL or their core area in special ed, to meet the needs of the students that are in our district. So it's been a long process, but I think we did well, and I think you'll be happy with the results that we see this year. I'm really looking forward to working with every one of them, as well as my assistant principals. I just wanted to announce also that this Thursday at 6 p.m., we're going to be having an informational night for the 6th grade parents and their children. Any community members are welcome to come. They did have a step-up day at the end of the school year last year, but this is more for the parents. It's a presentation, and they will be able to ask questions after the presentation, and student council members will be there to give tours if they want to tour the building as well. It's just to kind of get them acquainted with the new middle school concept and some of the new policies and procedures that we're putting in place there. I have a really strong leadership team this year. All of the department heads with the additional department heads and my team leaders at the middle school have met several times already over the summer. I sense a real renewed sense of zeal with all of these people, and I'm really excited. They're very excited about starting the school year, and I think they're going to be great mentors for the new people coming in. We have chosen the focus on results of vocabulary development. And that does lead to enhanced reading comprehension, but we really want to get down to the nitty-gritty focus. And with the many ELL and special ed students, vocabulary seems to be key with all of our test results. I want to say thank you to Mrs. McLaughlin for assisting us with the handbook addendum. I was so busy, and you were extremely invaluable to me in helping me get that squared away, so I appreciate that. In addition to our handbook, we've also created a faculty reference manual, which we're going to be providing you all with a copy with when we're through with that. We're just finalizing that, myself and my administrative staff. And we're putting that together because we have so many new staff and old staff, and we really want the building to be united and everybody to follow the same consistent policies and procedures all the time. So we're putting together this manual so that any possible question or concern or issue or situation that might come up over the course of the year will be outlined in this manual for reference. And every teacher will have it, and everything will be the same for everyone all the time. And also, like Mr. Lab said, anybody that hasn't registered for school yet, we'd really appreciate it if you would come in early before school starts. Both of our guidance secretaries are prepared for any incoming registrations, so if we could get those done before the first day of school, or if you know anybody that needs to register, please let them know that we're waiting. And I just want to wish all of my peers and colleagues a wonderful year, and I'm looking forward to working with you all, and I know you're going to see better results at the end of this year than you did last. Thank you.
I just want to say that I think when they deserve a hand for the amount of work that's been done in those particular schools before Roland comes up, and I'm very comfortable in the respect that all of the classroom teachers and all subject area teachers have been filled. That hasn't happened before. So we still have a week and a half of school to go. We started hiring as soon as we knew what vacancies we had, and we moved forward and so on. I'm holding in front of me, I sent this out to them today, was a little checklist. I shared it with one of the school committee members who was here earlier. And all it is a little thing, just kind of reminder to them to walk around and make sure that, for example, we started with bathrooms. Are they clean? Toilets work? Soap filled? Those are the little things that make a difference. My motto is that you can do all of the great ideas and everything else in the world, but if the toilets don't work, nothing else matters. And I'm dead serious about that. I think it's really important. It also shows respect. So, and I think that, hey, let's give them all that. You can all sit down now while Roland goes, and we'll put him on the hot seat a little bit about the building, facilities, transportation, food services that he's responsible for.
Well, when I started here 11 years ago, I wore one hat and I was a teacher, and then I became various other hats that I wore through the district. Buzz had asked me to be the director of operations, which is, I thought, a couple of jobs, but as you just referred to, it's IT, food service, maintenance, transportation, which is a biggie right now. I also oversee Head Start, which is in the building, one of our lessees, and we just got a new lessee who is Project Grow, or Western Worcester County Educational Collaborative, is renting 2 rooms from us, and they just moved in. They'll be starting in September. Excuse me. The biggest thing right now is transportation. All of our principals have cooperated by passing letters by me for authorization to send home to parents. One of the reasons we did that is to make sure there was no conflicts. We had some conflicts. Ms. Quinney had one. We took care of it, and that's what we're here for. We're trying to find any conflicts, take care of them before the kids get on the buses. And Buzz said to me, you know, get them there safely, get them home safely, feed them well, and make sure the bathrooms work, as he just referred to. All the other things I entrust to these educators and the administrators to take care of. The buildings, at this point, Mr. Como was not able to make it tonight. I have examined all the buildings. They're in excellent shape. Our custodial staff has done an outstanding job. Summer schools went a little later this year because of the fact that we had the year end a week later, and we only had a 4-day week for summer school in a couple of the buildings, and they had to hold off cleaning, so we've added extra crews in order to take care of those buildings and bring them to proper preparation for the students as they come in next Wednesday. All the outsides are being worked on. We've weeded all the beds where a couple of the principals want to plant some flowers and make it a little bit more presentable to not only the students but also to their parents and visitors to their schools. What we're trying to do is make, along with Ms. Sheridan, we're trying to make this a more efficient enterprise. The old mom and pop routine is pretty well gone. We're trying to make this cost effective, and we're trying to make it more business-like in our procedures. We're starting with procedures and policies that are going to change the way we do business in this town. And hopefully the end result of that will be savings for the district. One of the savings we're hoping to start with is your student handbook. We have the facilities already in place. I have people ready to start printing the handbook in-house. That would cost normally around $6,000 to the district. In-house, it'll cost us materials plus $100 a day for the person who's going to do that, who is on our staff. That's Eric Neibel. So we're looking to do that. We're looking to also save money in transportation costs. We're looking at all facets of this district to see where we can do things more efficiently. One of the main things is I work with vendors, but they're killing us with shipping and handling charges. We have one vendor who we just ordered materials from. They wrote off $8,000 of shipping and handling because of what we wanted to do. So working with these vendors and trying to get a more efficient way to do this is one of my main goals, and hopefully by year end, we can see appreciable savings in all areas that we're concerned about. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to field them at this time, and pretty much right now, I think most of the questions have to do with transportation. So, and they've been few and far between, but all our letters have gone out, and we're trying to handle those on a day-to-day basis. No one is left without a 24-hour turnaround time for a response. I try to do it in the same day and spend the hours to try to get people information, especially for getting their kids to and from school. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them at this time.
Are there any questions?
I just want to make an announcement for all those parents who have transportation issues. His email address is gabry@southbridgek12.ma.us, not Nembrico.
Right. Thank you.
I just want people to impress on people that safety is our primary concern. And in order to do this job well, you have to have someone responsible that can deal with the community, deal with that. So rather than Karen Sheridan, who would have been earlier, running around and trying to keep the finances. Karen is our Director of Finance. She will report on a regular basis to the school committee since she sits up here on a regular basis. And I just want to mention that she's done a tremendous amount of work researching, undoing, and I can say with a smile on my face, we have more than $1.38, but we're not giving it to the town. So we ended up in the positive with a small surplus that we're working on to pre-buy and make sure that we have enough material supplies. Last year when I came here, I was told by school committee members that it was a freeze and the teachers couldn't buy pencils and essential material supplies. We're not going to create the mentality that because things weren't organized well, teachers would buy a year's supply of stuff in the first month and then hoard it. Those are the things that we're going to eliminate. It's orderly, that we have a process, a manual has been put forth for purchasing, and then they need to get the confidence that, yes, they will get their toner, they will get their paper in January as they did, rather than ordering 20 of them in September so they could make sure they have it. And that was part of our whole purchasing problem, all of our procedures problem in the past. And the only way we can get credibility is by doing things right. You can't just say, trust me, you'll get it. And as they see little things being done better in a more organized manner, that hopefully it'll build over time. You didn't get to where you are in a week, and it's not going to take another 2 weeks to fix it. So step by step by step, we're improving all of the various elements. And I really wanted the community, those at the home and so on, and the school committee, to meet the people and say that we are focused on the students, we're focused on results, and we're focused on processes. If you don't get the infrastructure right, things aren't going to happen. And that's something that people don't see. The last thing I want is 15 kids standing on street corners without the buses running for them, and nobody to worry about that. Nor have chaos with 50 parents trying to register and so on. We've already set procedures up and so on so that secretaries and other people involved in the registration process will have places to go, and we'll set up a process. I know there's going to be people on the last day come running in and want us to stop everything else we're doing to register their kid. That's typical everywhere. And a lot of parents, and I want to stress again that school starts August 28th. We're open every single day. And their secretaries there, and then they will register you at their school. It's not the central services building at 25 Dale Street. If you go to Charlton, you go there. If you go to Eastford Road, you go there. If you go to West Street, you go there. Middle High School, you go there. The only exception may be a parent with an IEP or something that would come to and call special people personnel services. So those are the exceptions. And if we can get most of the parents in, we still have a week and a half to go. We're going to put ads in the paper. The bus schedules will be in the newspaper. So it'll be another way we can communicate to them. The website has been updated on a regular basis, and we're working on that and getting all the information out there as quickly as we can. And it's pedaling, we're pedaling fast. And again, I'll say that my expectation of all the administrators in here is that school will start organized, orderly, chaos-free. That's my goal. And I will be riding around town for the first 3 or 4 days of school, making sure those things are happening and counting kids. I will get enrollment reports to you on a weekly basis, so we know what we have. I expect, on a daily basis from the schools to be sent, and so we know how many kids and so on, because I know that all the effort that's been done by the principals and so on, there's going to be some uneven numbers showing up, and we'll work to rectify that. So thank you, and I like I said, it's been a lot of hard work, and I'm really pleased that the team has come together so quickly and gelled. And we have a lot of good people in the school system. And what I'm very pleased with that we also hired a lot of new people who, as Amy was saying, not just credentials, but a good fit. Working in an urban district is a whole lot different than working in a suburban district. It's harder. And sometimes young people will come with this great gleam in their eye, and they want to change the world. A year or two later, say, well, I didn't expect the kids to be this hard, or the parents to be, whatever, and so on. And they look for greener pastures. So when I was in Brockton and when I was in Chicopee before, I've always worked in urban districts. I always say to the faculty, hey, you're here to make a difference. It's going to be harder. You're going to work harder. You're going to put up with more stuff, and so on. And again, the goal is to at a level 4. So we're not underperforming. And so my motto is, we all do windows, and they're all out there knowing full well that I'll get different length handles for them in case they need a little more, okay? So thank you, I appreciate it. And again, I want to thank the school committee for supporting all of this over the past 8 months. We got a lot more to do. I'm done.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for coming this evening, and we wish you all good luck. I'm sure you'll get it, and I'm looking forward to working with you and seeing all the students and all the improvement that's going to happen this year. So thank you all very much for coming this evening. Moving on, school committee actions. A, vote to approve the quarterly report for the SWCEC from January 2013 to March 2013. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Donovan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Congdon. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Donovan?
That's okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a quick question. Do we do this every quarter or just once a year? I don't recall from last year. Is it every quarter?
It's supposed to be
It's
quarterly
supposed to be
report,
quarterly.
so-
Okay, all right, that's all. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll have roll call. Max?
Dr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes?
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
6 yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. B, vote to approve the annual school committee meeting schedule for the 2013-2014 school year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Motion by Mrs. Donovan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. McLaughlin. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I just have one. The last Tuesday in June should say Tuesday, not Monday, so we'll get that corrected on there. I did notice that. All right, anybody else? Seeing none, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Mrs. Quinney?
Madam Chair. Yes, Mrs. McLaughlin.
Were these dates still up for discussion? Was this something we were going to consider postponing?
Someone up here has to make the motion to postpone it if it wants to be discussed further on.
Then I make a motion to postpone this vote.
So you make a motion to postpone?
I make a
to
motion
when?
to accept August 27th as a school committee meeting, and then the rest of it is subject to Further discussion.
I believe it's best to just postpone everything, and then later on, when we have new business, I can make the announcement, because for the next meeting, determined.
Okay.
So we have a motion to postpone the schedule for further discussion, and you're going to postpone it. Do you have a date in mind for postponement, Mrs. McLaughlin?
I would like to address it at the next meeting, whether that meeting be August 27th, if that is determined to be the next meeting date. Just
All right, so we'll
postponing to the
postpone it
next meeting.
meeting. Do I have a second on that postponement?
Second.
I have a second by Mrs. Quinney. Is there any other discussion on the postponement? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Chairman, to clarify, you're postponing until the 9/10?
They're postponing, it's to be announced.
To be
We
announced,
don't know
okay.
when the next meeting is going to be just yet, so it'll be to be announced.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
No.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Dr. O'Leary?
No.
4 yes, 2 no.
Motion passes. Moving on. C, vote to remove the Budget, Facilities, and Transportation Subcommittee and replace with a Special School Committee of the Whole. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mrs. McLaughlin. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Donovan. And for discussion, I'd like to just, this is my decision that I put forward to the committee, so I'd like to just put my discussion in there. And basically, we have more subcommittees than we have people to really run them. Budget is going to be very important. I felt that it would be a lot easier, seeing as when we all attend the budget subcommittee, that it would be easier to remove it as a subcommittee and make it as a committee of the whole, and that we would be meeting as often as we want, but hopefully every other month. It'll be a lot more productive, I feel, for us to do that rather than have a subcommittee on that. So that was the reasoning for putting this vote on the agenda. Is there any other discussion? Mrs. Donovan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for clarification, will there be another calendar, for lack of a better term, a calendar with proposed meeting dates of this committee of the whole, or will they strictly be called on an as-needed basis?
They'll be called on an as-needed basis.
Okay. And it will be for the purpose for the entire school committee to meet with Mrs. Sheridan for budget purposes?
Correct.
Okay. And then in addition to that meeting, will we still be receiving financial update, or will the finance director be giving the public, or us via us, the meetings, updates on a monthly basis or something?
Once a month, one of the meetings a month.
Okay.
Yes, you'll still be
Okay.
giving updates.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other discussion? Seeing none, can we have a roll call on that, Max?
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes?
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Dr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
6 yes.
Thank you, motion passes. D, vote to approve assigned subcommittees and members. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mrs. McLaughlin. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Mrs. Donovan. We have discussion. Dr. O'Leary?
I just want to make a quick comment, guys, on negotiations. They're all very important. Negotiation seems to take a lot of time, energy, is a lot of emotion with it. It just seems odd that with someone like Dr. D'Amico, who's been part of it for many years, that we replace it with folks that are all very new to the whole process. It would seem that you'd want to be sitting, paying attention and learning, and rather than just going in as a chair to the whole thing. Thanks.
Just a response to that, Dr. O'Leary, I did have a conversation with Dr. D'Amico before she left the country.
Yes, ma'am.
She requested not to be on that because of her work schedule this year. She's not sure how often she would be able to meet.
Yep.
And the same thing with the budget. That was one of the other reasons why I decided, because she's unavailable to chair and perhaps be able to make it. So she requested that she, be a member, but she may not be able to make everything with negotiations, so that's why she was put in as an alternate.
Appreciate that, thanks.
You're welcome. Any other discussions on the subcommittees? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Dr. O'Leary?
No.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes.
5 yes, 1 no.
Moving on to E, vote to approve the 2013-2014 Southbridge Public Schools District Parent and Student Handbook. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mrs. Donovan. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Mrs. Congdon. Any questions? Mrs. McLaughlin, would you like to speak a little bit towards the handbooks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As a result of the parent forums that were held earlier this year, 2 issues that came up quite frequently were communication and consistency. The creation of a district-wide policy manual was in direct response to that. This was not my effort. This was a working group effort between Mrs. Congdon, Mrs. Donovan, Mrs. Quinney, and myself, with input from the district leadership team, and we have prepared a draft document that all students in the district will receive, in addition to a specific supplement for the school their child is attending. So if a parent is attending, if a child is attending West Street School, the parent will receive the district handbook and will receive a supplement for West Street School. It was quite an endeavor. It was very intensive, and if any of my fellow working committee members would like to speak to that, I would encourage them to do that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mrs. Donovan?
Thank you. I would like to add a little bit of background as to why we wanted to do this. Mrs. McLaughlin touched on it a little bit as far as coming out of the parent forums. But, you know, as a parent and as a member of the Subcommittee for Family and Community Engagement and as a member of the school committee, we all felt that it's time to do things a little differently than they've ever been done before, and not to necessarily reinvent the wheel on everything that we do, but we always we have always done the same thing over and over and over again and expect a different result. And this was the perfect opportunity coming out of policy subcommittee with Mrs. Principe, with Mrs. McLaughlin and myself, to try to make things different for the better, not to tap ourselves on the shoulder and complain about how many hours we put in, because it was literally hundreds of hours that began right after our July 2nd meeting and finished right up until maybe Friday morning. So it was a very arduous project, but it was something that brings pride as a person who was involved with it, that it's something that will hopefully be easy for parents, that will most effectively provide consistency. And that has been a big issue in this district as far as what the rules are, what the consequences are. And as you move from one building to the next, although we were in the same district, you would never know it. So it's our hope that this will start a new process for change. We're not saying that the handbook is perfect. It'll definitely, if it has to be tweaked as we work through policy and policies change, we will make those necessary corrections in the handbook. I do want to thank everybody that was involved in the district leadership team for their assistance and their guidance and their input on this, their administrative assistance. It was hard. It's change. Change is very hard. And there was a lot that went into it, and there's deadlines to meet, and we were all aware of that. But for everybody that was involved, I thank you truly. And it's my hope that when parents receive this and when other people get a chance to read it, hopefully we have made a difference. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mrs. Quinney?
Madam Chair, I just want to clarify that what we're approving now is just the district-wide parent and student handbook, and that individual school leadership and administration are drafted those supplements. So that is something different. So if people have questions regarding that, that would be the purview of those administrators, correct?
Correct, and actually what I would ask is if there's any policies that are in those supplements, then those supplements also will have to be voted in, because there's policy in them. So I believe there are some policies in those separate supplements, so we can discuss that, and then we can bring that up at our next meeting. But then we are voting the actual district parent and student handbook tonight.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, can I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Dr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
6 yes.
Thank you, motion passes. And thank you, ladies, you did a wonderful job on that handbook. Next, vote to assign school committee members to sign payroll warrants. One needed as a regular signer, which would be Mrs. Kara Donovan, and an alternate would be needed, and that would be Mrs. Lauren McLaughlin. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Donovan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Congdon. Do I have any discussion on that? Seeing no discussion, can we have a roll call on that, please, Max?
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Dr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
6 yes.
Thank you, motion passes. G, vote to assign school committee members to sign expenditure warrants. We need 3 plus alternates. I have assigned Mrs. Jill Congdon, Mrs. Erin Quinney, Mrs. Lauren McLaughlin, and Mrs. Patricia Woodruff as the main signers, with the alternates of Dr. Domingo and Dr. O'Leary. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Donovan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Congdon. Do I have any discussion? Mrs. Quinney?
Madam Chair, I know we just voted that Mrs. Donovan would sign payroll warrants. Does that exempt her from signing expenditure warrants? She's not listed?
It doesn't. We can add her as an alternate as well. If
I
you'd
would-
like, we can just add her name into as an alternate.
I would then move to amend the motion to reflect Kara Donovan as an alternate.
Alrighty, so we have amendment to the motion to add Mrs. Donovan to the alternate signing of the expenditure warrants. And do I have a second on that amendment?
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. O'Leary. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call on the amendment, please, Max?
Dr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes?
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
6 yes.
Thank you. So now the vote would be to assign school committee members to sign expenditure warrants, 3 plus alternates. So the assigned is Mrs. Jill Congdon, Mrs. Erin Quinney, Mrs. Lauren McLaughlin, Mrs. Patricia Woodruff, with alternates of Dr. Domingo, Dr. O'Leary, and Kara Donovan.
So moved.
Thank you. We have a
Second.
motion and a second. Any other discussion? Mrs. Donovan?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, just a quick question for clarification. If the agenda clearly states we're looking for 3 plus 1, and we list 4 plus the
It should be.
Where the numbers don't match, is that
Yeah,
okay?
the town is asking for 4. So it should
Oh,
be
okay.
4. 4 main, and then
the
the other
alternates.
alternates. By law, all of us can sign a warrant. It's our duty to do so. We don't necessarily have to be named, as long as the majority of the team signs the warrants, they're good. But we're asked by the town to have specific names for them, because they want to know who's doing what. So that's just
Okay.
something the town is asking us. It's not required, but that's what the town would like from
Okay.
us.
All right, thank you for that.
You're welcome. Any other discussion? Seeing none, can we have a roll call on that, please, Max?
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Dr. O'Leary?
Yes.
6 yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. H, move that the Southbridge School Committee approve the creation of a Southbridge Special Education Parent Advisory Council revolving account for the purpose of paying for expenses related to the Special Education Parent Advisory Council and depositing receipts generated by said Special Education Parent Advisory Council, and be it further moved that the committee recommends to the Southbridge Town Council to also approve the creation of this revolving fund. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. McLaughlin. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Mrs. Quinney. Do I have any discussion on that? Dr. O'Leary?
Can you help me out with the purpose of us approving it? Why can't it be a
The,
committee itself? without
Sure, I can
telling you?
explain that to you.
Thank you.
The Special Education PAC is an advisory council required by law for us to have, and if people wish to donate money, or if they raise money, they have to have an account to put that money in so that they can use it for whatever they purchase for the children for special needs. So we have to, the town is requiring us to have this account so that it's kind of like the revolving accounts that we have for other departments. So in order for them to accept money that is donated to them, we have to have this account.
So they're asking, they're requiring us to do it, but they're asking for us to approve it?
They're
To
asking,
put it
yes, we
forth?
have to approve it so that they can have that revolving account. And Karen, if you have anything that you want to add to what I said, regarding this, I don't know, I believe I've said it appropriately, but do you have
what
any?
you said, and just so that this is designated for this particular purpose.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
What's
Thanks.
that?
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Mrs. Donovan?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Mrs. Sheridan. Obviously, this is the first time, how do I say this? If we're accepting this fund or revolving fund tonight, that means it did not exist prior to this. So does that mean or follow that prior to this evening, there were not any special expenses or items or anything like that that the SPED PAC did that brought in funds or expended funds, and what happened to those?
This is the first check that they've gotten, and they've been trying to get it in the system, but without having this approved, we're not able to accept the check. We have to have
Okay.
this revolving account in order to accept any of these donations that she's been able to get. So this
Okay.
first check cannot be accepted by the town without this account being created.
Okay.
And then it would,
By the school committee.
by the school committee. And then they'll set up the account with the specific purpose that those can only be used for
I
that.
understand. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote on that, please.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Dr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
6 yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. I vote to approve a donation in the amount of $250 to the Special Education Parent Advisory Council. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Quinney, for the motion. And a second?
Second.
Mrs. Congdon with the second. Any discussion? Ms. Pate, did you want to come up? And I believe you're part of that. I didn't know if you wanted to just mention anything of the donation. It's anonymous donation, or? It's okay. If you just want to mention and.
$250 donation given to the Southbridge Sped Pack by Rose Lamoureux on behalf of Dr. Tumalo.
Okay.
And it's the first of many donations, I'm hoping. I have 2 others lined up right now for the pack.
Okay. Well, thank you.
So,
Thank you, and we'll
to
send out
Dr.
a,
Tumalo.
we'll send out a thank you to them as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Roll call vote on that, please.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Dr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes.
6 yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Next, we'll go to unfinished business. We have the third reading and adoption of the sexual harassment policy, file ACAB. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion on that policy? No, it's been out for a while. It's been a while since we spoke. Mrs. McLaughlin?
Just very quickly, I was reading my packet one more time, and I just have some minor grammatical things, nothing that would change this policy substantively, but we have the word "the" in front of Southbridge Public Schools throughout this policy, and I just would like to remove that. It sounds strange with the "the." I noticed that for the first time. I think sometimes we looked at this policy so often you don't see until you put it away and look at it again. And then there's language in here regarding the district Title IX officer. We actually have two district Title IX officers, a male and a female. So wherever it says the word the district Title IX officer, we'll just change it to one of the or a district Title IX officer. Again, it doesn't substantively change anything here, but those minor grammatical changes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote on that.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Dr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
6 yes.
Is there any other unfinished business for this evening from anyone? Mrs. McLaughlin?
No
No?
unfinished business.
No
I'm
unfinished
sorry.
business. Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to new...
I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Mrs. Donovan?
I'm sorry. I just had a couple things. I'm not looking for this right away, and I know that it was promised before we started summer, but I would just like to put in at some point down the road, if we could just get some feedback on our summer feeding program, how that went, and our summer school program.
Yeah, we're in the process of putting the report together. We already have a couple reports. I'm just waiting for the rest
I
of them.
figured it's too early, but just to
Yeah.
make sure we
Yeah,
look for
because-
that down the road.
Right, no, clearly, we changed a lot of the summer school program, particularly for credit one. I spoke with the director, and then Dr. Jordan's responsible for that, so she's pulling together the report from the feeding program, the special ed program at a couple sites,
Great.
Title I program, and so on. So that you'll be getting shortly.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay?
Thank you very much. All set,
Anyone
Madam
else?
Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. So under new business, we have agenda for the next regular school committee meeting. And actually, the next school committee meeting will be a working school committee meeting, and that will be next Tuesday, 8/27/2013. The time and the place, I believe, will be determined because that's something new that we added in this evening. So I will discuss it and see what's the best time and the best place to have that. But that will be our next meeting. Is there any other new business? Mrs. Quinney?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to talk about, a little bit about the PBIS training that the Department of Pupil and Personnel Services put on August 15th. The presenter was Dr. Diane Meyer, and it was a very interesting perspective to see where the district is heading in their behavior plan district-wide. And they set 3 very simple tenets that will be followed through from preschool all the way through 12th grade. And they were be responsible, be respectful, and be ready to learn. And in that, how expectations are set regarding behavior and teaching children behavior the same way that academics are taught, what expectations are, what kids can expect in different situations, what is acceptable behavior and what isn't. And I think she was a phenomenal speaker, and the people that attended that training were incredibly engaged. And I'm very excited to see how PBIS is implemented with fidelity moving forward this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else with new business? Mrs. Donovan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few items. The first thing I'd like to mention is that just a little bit of point of information. I know that I didn't know if Amy Allen was going to announce it. I just received a bunch of calls this week about it. The elementary students, I know that a lot of, all of them actually, received letters explaining who their teachers will be and what bus they will take. At the middle high school, however, they do it a little differently. The way that it was explained to me, what will take place is on the first day, when your child arrives to school, they will have staff outside at tables that will be designated by certain letters of the alphabet, say A through L and then M through Z or whatever, per grade. So your child will receive their schedule of who they have and where they need to report on the first day of school. And that's something new if you're coming from West Street or Charlton Street as a 5th grader and you're not sure what will happen. I just wanted to make that clear. The second thing is that the Jacob Edwards Library, in conjunction with the public schools, is going to present a lecture this Thursday, August 22nd, from 6:30 to 7:30 at the library. Our presenter will be Jarrett Krokoska, and he's going to be discussing a lecture on imagining beyond your circumstances. And basically, he recently gave a very successful lecture detailing the difficulties of his childhood and how he used his imagination to escape his realities. So he's created some books, and through his characters in the books, he's able to relate to kids and how they can somehow take something from his books and helpfully apply it to their own lives. So this is open for grades 6 and up. So if you have, if you want to hear his own courageous and inspiring story, again, this Thursday night, 6:30 to 7:30 at the library. I'd also like to just take this opportunity to sincerely thank Superintendent Nemberko, as well as all of the members of the district leadership team and all our new assistant principals that were here this evening. It makes me feel so good that there's a plan in place, that we're looking for order, and that we're looking for everything to be chaos-free. It's very exciting, finally, to see and hear so much work that is being done for all the right reasons. So many, many thanks to all that played a role, and I'm very, very excited for our upcoming school year. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mrs. Congdon?
Thank you. I just wanted to tell everyone that I had the opportunity, along with Mrs. Quinney, of attending Charting the Course for new school committee members, presented by the Massachusetts Association of School Committees. It was in August at Tohoto Regional, and it was very informative. It went over a lot of things to expect as a new school committee member, so it helped me get more prepared for my year, and I just wanted to say thank you for allowing me to have that opportunity to attend that course. And I also wanted to thank again the district leadership team. Everyone has been working so hard in this district, and Superintendent Nemberko has also. It's amazing, and I'm so excited for the school year, and I'm very happy to be a part of this. I also just wanted to, a quick announcement. I was speaking to Jasmine Rivas yesterday, and they're doing a youth leadership carnival through U Inc. In Aspira, in the Jacob Edwards Library. It's going to be held tomorrow, August 22nd, from 12 to 5 at the former Southbridge High School, the administrative building on Cole Ave. It's a free event for teens ages 12 and older to become leaders of tomorrow. You can register through Aspira or the Jacob Edwards Library. And this is their second annual one, and she was inviting everybody from the school committee, as well as members of the community and teens ages 12 and older. Thank you.
Thank
Joe,
you.
I'm sorry, Joe, was that tomorrow the 21st or Thursday the 22nd?
The 22nd.
Thursday, thank you.
Thursday, sorry.
Just making sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Mrs. McLaughlin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank you and the superintendent for arranging the retreat that we had last Friday. Mr. Kuchar from the Mass Association of School Committees, he's always full of knowledge and very entertaining, so it was nice to see him, and I appreciate you pulling that together. I think we got some good information out of that retreat. I think we learned that we, as a working body here, are also a work in progress and have to continually self-improve and work towards doing the best that we can for the students in the district. And I know that we're all committed to that, and that heartens me and makes me feel very good. So thanks to everybody, and thanks to all the administrators and our superintendent for doing some extraordinary work that probably couldn't even begin to articulate that's gone on in the last few weeks and months in preparation for the coming year. I look forward to it. I wish everybody a very good school year, all the staff, the students, the parents. It seems to me that, a lot of systems can be put in place, new people can be put in place. One of the things that we all have to work on is what happens up here, and how we have to go into the year with a positive attitude, and we can't let our minds go to the very worst place when something amiss happens, because it will. But that doesn't mean it's not something that can be, it can't be corrected. It certainly can. And I would just ask people to get the facts and come in with a good attitude. This is going to take a group effort from all of us. And I'm committed to that, and I know my colleagues are too. And I would ask the same from the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we will not be having executive session this evening, so we have a motion for an adjournment, please. Motion by Dr. O'Leary. Do I have a second? Second. Second from Mrs. Congdon. All in favor? We are adjourned.
I finished the Ziva Rosenfeld stuff today.